Would you say I have a reasonable understanding of how to execute these various sex acts properly?
Yes.
How awesome is that? What you're doing is disgusting. Listen, lady.
Hello everybody. It's good to see you all. Welcome to today's live stream. What I'm going to go over today is I'm going to give you guys a kind of brief rundown of my latest guide, which is the Ultimate Guide to Performance Anxiety, which has just been released, going out today. So, for those of you who missed out on the pre-order, for those of you who haven't had a chance to pre-order it, you can get to see exactly what is inside it. I'm going to give you a brief sneak peek, a very brief preview of what's inside it. I'm going to look through the contents of the book so you can see exactly what you get when you pick up my Ultimate Guide to Performance Anxiety. And if anyone in the chat right now, if anyone tuning in right now, has any particular questions they'd like to ask, any particular problems that they have right now, I'm going to use this opportunity to do a bit of a free Q&A, a bit of a free, kind of mini coaching session for anyone who's in the chat who has some very specific questions. Then go right ahead and drop those questions in the chat here on YouTube right now. Space Eye, good to see you. Oscar, good to see you. Welcome to the chat. Let's get cracking. Let's share this one up. Oops, everyone's gone. That's what I'm looking for. Bang. Excellent. You guys can see that. So I will just zoom in a bit there so you can have a read through as we're going. Just scrolling down. It's not on. Good question here, Space. That'll be up on the weekend. Right now, you can go to Gumroad to get your hands on it. In fact, I'm going to drop you the link right now, mate, since you've asked. I will drop it in the chat right now. Where are we at? So you can pick up your copy of it. Bam. There it is right there in the chat. Good morning to you, Randall. Good to see you again, mate. As always. Dave, good to see you. Casper. You might have to just turn your volume up, Casper. This is about as loud as I can go with these earbuds. I don't really have much control over that, unfortunately. All right. So let's before I get stuck into some of the questions in the chat, I'll give you guys a quick rundown of exactly what is in this book, what's covered, and and sort of the way it's structured and the way I designed it for you guys, for anyone who's interested in overcoming performance anxiety issues in the bedroom, which unfortunately is a bigger and bigger problem these days for guys, especially younger guys under the age of 30. Rates of erectile dysfunction, rates of performance anxiety tend to be going up, not going down. It's trending up, unfortunately, and in large part due to excessive porn consumption, from what I understand, and another in large part due to plummeting testosterone levels, increasing exposure to environmental estrogens, these kind of things, all contribute, unfortunately, to this problem. And thank you for the reminder, Randall. As always, hit that like button, guys, while you're here. So let's have a quick scroll through my new book, The Ultimate Guide to Performance Anxiety, How to Permanently Eliminate Your Nerves in the Bedroom. So what exactly do I cover in this book? And we'll go over like one example of a very, very common cause of performance anxiety, and I'll go over my prescriptions for that. So here's exactly what you sort of get in this book. So I'll give you a brief rundown and introduction to everything. We talk about the anatomy of an actual boner and how that actually works and what the process actually is. Because a lot of guys, when they have issues in the bedroom, they think it's something mechanical. They think it's some a physiological problem with them. They don't necessarily think about the mental aspect of things first. And in the chapter following up that, why not just take a blue pill, I talk about Viagra, I talk about what Viagra is, and I talk about, more importantly, I talk about what Viagra isn't. Viagra, Cialis, Libido, Camagra, all these different variants. And how most guys, their first reaction is to reach for a little blue pill. That's the first thing they reach for if they have like a problem in the bedroom. And that's not always going to solve the problem for you. In large part, that tends to actually cause more of a placebo effect than anything. Because all these pills do, all this stuff like Viagra and that do, is they increase the amount of nitric oxide in your blood, which causes your blood vessels to relax. So these help with the physiological response side of things. However, the problem is, and I've seen this on set before with brand new male talent, is that if the dude is too nervous and he's in his head, he's anxious, and he takes a little blue pill, it is not going to do anything for him, unfortunately. If he's still got that anxiety, he's still got those nerves, then a little blue pill ain't going to solve the problem. Now, what does happen with a lot of guys is they end up using it as a crutch. It becomes this sort of, like I said, it gives them a placebo effect because they think, oh, I've taken a little blue pill, I'm invulnerable now. And that placebo effect actually calms their nerves and eliminates that performance anxiety. But the important thing to realize here is that Viagra, Cialis, Libido, Camagra, whatever you want to use them, they don't give you an erection, they don't give you a boner, they keep it there for longer and they help it rise a bit faster. That's all it does. It doesn't actually give you that arousal response, because that is what causes the chain reaction of physiological responses that you need to achieve a boner, is the arousal response. And more importantly, you need the arousal and relaxation, because a boner is a relaxation response. So this is why being anxious, being nervous, stops guys from getting aroused, getting relaxed, getting a boner. It's because it's the opposite. Anxiety is the opposite of being relaxed. So we talk about that in this book, and more importantly, I talk about how to use this book. And so we can just jump straight ahead. So what I do is I give you guys a list of the most common, both physical and some of the most basic physical causes of performance issues, but more importantly, the focus of this book is the mental causes of performance anxiety. And at the end of each chapter, you can kind of use this book as a sort of FAQ guide for your own personal problems. And this is what I would be doing if I was doing a one-on-one coaching call with a guy who had these issues. This is exactly the process I would take him through. I would try to understand where he's having problems, what's the root, more importantly, what the root cause of his problems are, what are the mental sort of, what is the mental script he's playing over and over again in his head. You'll see very shortly how I help guys to sort of self-diagnose that, and then we work on, okay, what exactly can we do to fix a guy in that particular circumstance, to fix you in that particular circumstance. So that is the whole point of this entire book. And a good question here from Sounds Online. Is overuse of the blue pill physically dangerous? Well, there is. If you're an older guy and you have heart problems, that is one of the things they warn you about with Viagra or these other variants of Viagra. Is that if you have heart issues, you have bad cardiovascular health, you could be putting yourself at a bit of a risk. And the other important thing to note in regards to these sort of pills is that your body can develop an immunity to them. Your body can develop a resistance to them. Your body can develop drug resistance. So if a guy starts using it, if a guy starts relying on it all the time, his body, he'll need more and more of the active compound in the drug to have the same effect if he just uses it consistently. And eventually, with enough time, with enough usage, it becomes useless. It doesn't actually help him at all. It doesn't do anything because the body has developed a resistance to that drug and it no longer does anything at all. And that's a circumstance that can happen quite a lot in the adult film industry. Guys consider they get in, they use it again and again and again, and they use it as a crutch. Right? They're using it as almost a placebo effect in a lot of circumstances, but then through extended use, through repeated use, it has significantly less impact on their body, and eventually the body just develops immunity to it. And this is why I don't encourage guys to use it. I don't encourage guys to, especially civilian dudes, they don't, regular guys, regular Joes, you don't need it. You can find ways around it. It is a longer term solution, don't get me wrong. If you want to correct, say, a lack of cardiovascular health, poor nitric oxide production in the body, whatever it is, it would take you time to fix those problems. It's not an overnight solution, it's a long-term solution. But ultimately, it's a better solution long-term for you because your overall health is going to improve. It's not just going to improve that one aspect of your life, it's going to improve multiple aspects of your life if you focus on fixing that issue the correct way. So, it's a very, very good question. Sounds online. Before we get stuck into it, Oscar with another question here. What are the best positions for penetration? Well, it depends upon, in large part, it depends upon the angle of your dick. So, for there's certain things that guys do. So, some guys will actually naturally point more upwards when they're erect, and other guys actually naturally point more downwards when they're erect. So, and some guys obviously will just be straight out. If you're the kind of guy, here's what I would say to start with, right? And I can go into a lot of detail on this, but we'll just give you a real quick example to answer your question, Oscar. If you're a guy whose wang tends to point upwards, then cowgirl, so her on top of you, tends to be a very, very good position for you because your penis is naturally pointing upwards, and thus it's pointing into her G-spot while she's naturally riding you and going up and down and back and forth on top of your dick. So if you're angled upwards, cowgirl's really good for you for hitting that sweet spot inside of her vagina. If your dick points downwards, then doggy style actually tends to be a really, really good position for you because your penis will naturally bend down and the head of your dick will be poking into her G-spot when she's naturally lined up in doggy style. So it's very dependent upon your own penis, I might say. Yeah, exactly. So, so in your situation, Oscar, it sounds like cowgirl's probably one of the best positions you can implement to improve your angle of penetration. Or, as another example, some kind of elevated missionary position. So, she's in missionary position and you sliding a pillow or a cushion or something under her hips to raise her hips up. Again, if you're pointing upwards, you're more likely to actually have your head of your dick, once you've changed that angle of penetration with a pillow, have the head of your dick hitting her G-spot far more effectively, far more powerfully. It's going to have a lot better angle of penetration for you. There we go. Sounds another interesting question here. Have you ever brought a girl home and when it came down to doing the business, you realized you just weren't that keen on her, so your body just subconsciously shut down? This is actually a perfect example of something I talk about in this book. So the idea that you're not actually that into the girl. And part of this comes down to, sort of respecting your own boundaries, respecting your own time, having standards, like having standards for yourself for the kind of woman that you will actually bring home, for the kind of woman that you will actually have sex with. That's a very important thing. A lot of guys will just sort of have sex with any chick that, will touch their wang. Any girl that will give them the time of day, they'll happily have sex with her. And for the most part, this generally isn't a problem when it comes to performance issues in the bedroom. But for some guys, that is a problem, and a lot of that comes from them not respecting their own standards and respecting their own boundaries. So making sure that you recognize that before it's too late, right? Because otherwise you're going to get into the situation which you've just described, where you come home, bring a girl home, and it's time to get down to it, and it's like, that passion, that fire, that lust isn't really there. And so if that's not there, then obviously your old boy downstairs isn't really going to rise to the occasion, is he? If you're really not that keen on it. And sometimes that has actually got nothing to do with the way she looks. Sometimes it's to do with her personality. Sometimes it's the personality of the girl you're with that can actually cause that that shutdown, as you described, of your body. Where your body is just, your brain is just like, I don't really find this girl attractive. Why am I wasting my time here? Why am I spending my time here? You know, and there are a couple of ways around that. But let's go into some mental causes, right? Now, I talk about in this book the three kind of mental states that guys need to have simultaneously in order to achieve and maintain an erection. Is one, they're present in the moment, so they're not in their head at all. Right? Because if you're in your head, if you're just thinking about something else, you're not able to relax. You're not able to generate that arousal response. So the second thing is eliminating the fight or flight response, which is basically fear and anxiety. That fear, that anxiety response, that thing that kicks in when you're nervous. That is what causes you to tense up, to tighten up, to not relax. And the third thing that you obviously need in order to maintain an erection or to achieve an erection is the idea of being aroused. The arousal response, the mental condition of being sexually aroused in the first place, because that is what triggers the rest of this sort of physiological chain reaction of getting a boner. You need to be aroused at some point about something to actually get there in the first place. So what you'll find is all these mental causes hit at one of these 3 points. They interrupt one of these 3 points, and that's what causes guys to have performance issues in the bedroom. So let's start with one example that I talk about a fair bit, and that is this idea of trying too hard to please the woman, being so desperate to leave a good impression with the girl that it fucks you up in the performance department. So this is just one example of what's in this book, and I'm going to go through this and sort of show you how you use this book to sort of self-diagnose yourself. And Goodman Benjamin just placed a pre-order for the book. Pre-order ends today, so if you're watching this on the replay, then the price will have gone up and it won't be on pre-order anymore. That's another reason to get on my email list, because whenever I release the new product, everybody on my email list gets access to it first. I make sure that you guys get, you know, any discounts, any bonuses I throw out, you guys get it first. So if you're not on my email list already, in the description down below, subscribe, get my free ebook, The 5 Subtle Mistakes Men Make in the Bedroom, and you'll be on the email list. And then for all future book releases, of which there is another one coming next week, another book is being released next week, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But get on the email list for that too. So, trying too hard to please her and being desperate to leave a good impression, right? This is where a lot of guys will shoot themselves in the foot, right? And the idea is that you start doubting yourself. You start to become dependent upon an outcome. And you are tying your ego and your self-esteem and your confidence really to something that you do not have full control over. So, don't get me wrong, you can learn to be better in the bedroom and you should take responsibility for that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it is not entirely under your control whether or not she orgasms, because some women have their own issues and problems. Sometimes they're in their head. Sometimes they've had a bad day. Sometimes they're in a funk, and this will affect her ability to orgasm and to climax, right? Or Maybe she isn't that in tune with her body yet. Maybe she's actually a bit inexperienced in the bed. She actually can't. She hasn't developed that mind-body connection yet with her own orgasm to the point where it's easier for a guy to make her climax. These are just some examples. So, like I said, it's a dangerous game to play if you're doing that. So, because the moment you don't achieve that outcome, that dependency, bang, confidence plummets, your self-worth plummets, and guess what else goes down? It's your boner, basically. And not only that, you're putting a lot of pressure on her by being so desperate to please her and so desperate to make her climax that you're very likely going to put her in her own head as well, which is going to further exacerbate the problem. So, as an example, again, this is how this sort of book gets structured. So here's an example of some of the thoughts that you might go through in your head if this problem is occurring or this problem has a potential to occur later on. So things like, I hope she really wants to see me again. I really want to make this girl come. Why isn't she coming? I wonder why she isn't coming. What am I doing wrong? I wonder if she has this problem with every guy. Is this just me? Am I doing something wrong? I really want to impress her. These kinds of thoughts can indicate that you are heading down this rabbit hole. And so here's a couple of examples of what I would prescribe to a guy to get over this situation. And you'll see at the end of every chapter in this book, there's multiple prescriptions for every problem. So you'll start working on those. And as we go through here, let's just, as an example, click on Selfish Pervert Frame. It'll take us straight to that prescription in the book, where I will elaborate on that exact prescription and how that is going to help fix that mental block, that mental problem, that mental negative thought spiral. So, in this example, where we've said, oh, I'm worrying too much about pleasing her, I'm desperate to please her, well, then we're going to talk about selfish pervert frame, which is this idea that it's very counterintuitive, but actually works, and it's worked on countless clients of mine, countless guys in my community. So, the way this works with the selfish pervert frame, you're actually taking responsibility for your own arousal. And when I say selfish pervert, I don't mean you're just trying to pop as quickly as you possibly can. You're gonna be a one-pump chump and be done. That's not what I'm talking about. It's a combination of selfish and pervert. So the pervert component is what it means you're kind of using her like your own personal sexual outlet. You're having fun with her the way you want to have fun with her. However you please, indulging in your perverted desires and fantasies, right? She's a conduit, a medium for satisfying your urges and your desires. What this does is it takes you out of that outcome dependence. It takes you away from that ego outcome dependence of, oh, I have to please her. No, instead in your mind, you've flipped it, you've reframed it as I'm going to please myself via her, and she is along for the ride. And ironically, this mental frame actually tends to allow her to get off much easier. So it does a couple of things for you. One, it stops you from getting in your head in regards to a boner, but two, it actually, this sort of perverted side to you is allowed to come out, and that is actually a very attractive thing. A woman likes being the cause of a man's arousal. That is a boost to her ego, if she knows that she is the cause of your arousal. A very, very satisfying thing for a woman's ego. So that is a really good example of how, that's an example of how this book is structured and how I go through and prescribe things to a guy, help them to get out of their own head, help them to solve and fix all these various problems. So, thank you very much, Ryan. Ryan Acevendo Stirling has got me laid so much. Very glad to hear it, sir. I'm very, very glad to hear it. And Red Pill 4, jumping in the chat here. Good topic, thank you very much, sir. Guys need this information. Don't be hard-headed. Get this, and it is a game changer for you. Get it sorted. Absolutely. And Chelsea, thank you for jumping in the chat here. Even though this is written for men, it definitely all applies for us women too. Actually, you're very much correct here. This is absolutely written for guys, but the principles of being in your head apply to women as well. So a lot of these same negative thoughts will apply to women who have problem climaxing in the bedroom themselves. So I'm very glad you brought that up, Chelsea. And Dirk Diggler has said, what is the supplement stack that you mentioned that you take before scenes? That is in my other ebook, How I Grew My Penis and Other Porn Industry Secrets. If you want to learn that stack, you'll have to get that book. That is not something that I sort of put out there for free for everybody, because it took a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of refinement, a lot of research to get that thing down. So if you want to check that out, that is in my other ebook. Viking Paradigm. Good to see you again, mate. Republic here, new name. I can tell by your avatar who you are. Selfish Pervert 100% makes things better for both. And yep, Viking here has used this in his life, obviously, with a lot of success, as have many of my clients and my customers. Mike Johnson with the question: How do you best use a butt plug on a girl? Interesting question. So you don't just jam it in there. First of all, make sure you're using a good lubricant. I recommend Pure Silicone Lube. It's spelled P-J-U-R. That's the brand. It's a black bottle with yellow writing. I've used a lot of different lubricants in my career, all kinds, and I can attest this is the one. Pure Silicone Lube is without a doubt the best, especially for anal sex. So, first of all, make sure the butt plug is lubed up properly. And second, when you're using it, it's to introduce a butt plug. It's a good idea to use that whilst simultaneously stimulating her in another way. So you can, in doggy style, for example, while you're having sex vaginally in doggy style, you can introduce the butt plug at the same time. And what that's going to do is that's going to associate positive, happy, fun, enjoyable sexual experience, feelings, and sensations with the new toy, with the butt plug, with anal stimulation. You want to connect these two things for her to allow her to experience more types of pleasure. That's the idea here. It's not just a case of just like slamming it in there for the sake of slamming it in there. There's a point to it. There's a reason why we want to do that, and we want to associate. That reason is to associate fun, happy, enjoyable, pleasurable feelings and sensations with butt stuff for her. That's the whole point of it. So, good question. Space Eye, it is already on. That link is in the chat right there, Space Eye. That is the link where you can get it right now. That is currently on. I haven't updated the price, so if you get on that right now, you actually will get it cheaper. But once I get off this live stream, the price shoots up. So you better get it instantly right now if you're watching it. But look, if you guys don't have any... here we go, Ryan jumped in here. My main issue is with condoms. And this is it's an interesting thing. I'm glad you asked this question, right? So with condoms, the problem with condoms, right, is a lot of guys, because you're all a bunch of dirty bastards, you stop using condoms at some point. If you never go raw dog, then condoms aren't an issue. Because that's just that's the level of sensation your body is used to. That's the level of sensation your dick is used to. You know, if you've never had raw sex with a girl, or if you don't regularly have raw sex with a girl, then there's still enough excitement and stimulation with a condom to keep you hard, to keep you erect, and allow you to enjoy yourself. And I remember I didn't. My first ever, back when I was 16, my first ever girlfriend, we did use. Towards the end of our relationship, she was on the pill and we were having sex without a condom and stuff. But after that experience, for a good probably for a good 7 years, I didn't have sex without a condom. Even with girlfriends, it was all condom sex. And that's why condoms haven't really been a problem since then. Although, once you start doing porn and you're having raw dog sex all the time, that's when it could be a bit challenging because you're constantly having it. So the way around condoms is don't use condoms unless you're doing it with a girl who's always going to be, unless you're always going to be raw dogging her. So if you can train your body to use condoms and not like just cheat, you sort of force yourself through it. Yeah, okay, maybe one or two times, like the first couple of times, you might have some sensitivity problems, you might have some boner issues, but the more you do it, the more your body's going to get used to that level of sensation. And so condoms won't really be a problem anymore. And a way you can help anchor that is to give yourself, if you know, right, if you know condoms are a problem, and you know you're going to be having sex with a girl with a condom, you know, coming up, like you got a date, or she's a regular girl you see, then deliberately give yourself blue balls before the date, so that you are really on the edge and more aroused and more like ready, raring to go, so that there isn't going to be an issue. So that when you're going to put the condom on, your old boy downstairs is at full attention, and you just go straight into it. And the other thing that helps is the quicker you get it on. The quicker you get it on, and the quicker you get it on all the way down your shaft, the easier things tend to be. You don't want your condom to be sort of like halfway down your shaft. You want it to be, well, for a start, because that's how it's better protection for you from STDs. If you have it all the way down, it's covering more of your skin. There's less likely, you know, for less skin-to-skin contact, less contact, less mucus contact for transmission of things. But when you get it down to the base of your dick, it's not cutting off some circulation halfway up the shaft, right? It's at the base. So your erection is going to be at full attention. So a couple of other things you can do with a condom there is have some lubricant. If you know you're going to be using condoms, have lubricants on standby. Again, I recommend pure silicone lube. It's the best lube I've ever found. And putting a little bit inside the condom, on the inside of the condom, before you slide it on, gives you some internal lubrication so that the sex feels better. And then obviously putting some on the outside as well for when you penetrate, because sometimes condoms tend to be pre-lubed, and I like to use Skin, SKYN brand condoms. I found those to be the best, with the most sensation. They're kind of thin, and they're not silicone, so they're not latex. So there are women who do have allergies to latex, so this doesn't cause that. So it gets around a lot of problems. SKYN, that's the brand I recommend. But so having lube on the inside and the outside of the condom, so pre-lube on the inside, put it on, and then use the lube on the outside, keep yourself at full mast, and then get stuck into it. And also having, sort of prepping the condom whilst she's giving you a blowjob. So she's giving you a blowjob, have the condoms like on your bedstand or in your pocket, or wherever you keep them, while she's sucking your dick, so your dick stays hard. Take the condom out, get it ready, maybe put a little bit of lube inside of it, and then pull her head back, slide that bad boy on all the way down, and then flip her around and get down to business. So there's not that downtime between like, oh, stop all sexual stimulation, let's put the condom on, take your time. And by the time it's on and it's like, you've got it all the way down, you've lost that excitement, right? I find that, this is what I've recommended to guys before. And it really has helped them. So, but that's more of a physical thing than say an anxiety thing, right? But that's the way to get around that. So, very good question there, Ryan. I'm glad you asked it. Where do we get to? I hear a lot, if you are circumcised, that a condom can make your dick limp. I don't think that really has much to do with it. I've seen from the questions that guys have asked me, guys of all shapes and sizes, and it's the cause of condoms being an issue is that they are used to raw sex for the most part, and it's a lack of excitement and arousal. All right, there you go. Thank you, Rubik, for the question, for the comment here. Get the likes up, guys. Yes, indeed. And make sure you get your hands on this book before I jump off and increase the price of the damn thing. And yeah, here we go, Chelsea. Perfect example. Latex allergy right here. Exactly. So it's a lot more common than the guys think. Women having like a latex allergy. So Skin, S-K-Y-N. That's the condom brand I recommend. They're really, really good. I've used them like for a good 10 years, and I have never found anything better. That is, they're without a doubt the best. Trojans, I really don't like Trojans. I think Trojans are shit. But that's opinion from a professional, you know. And bear in mind that I used to work as a high-class male companion, so I was getting paid to fuck, but I was getting paid to fuck with a condom on. So I know what I'm talking about. I know all the different types of brands and things. So, genuine as holing with the question: do women get any pleasure from rectal/anal penetration? Women in my society says no. No, it's even forbidden in the religion. I'm not sure what. I'm curious what religion you are and what region you are in. But anal sex is something that can be pleasurable for every woman. And like I said before, it's something that you kind of have to associate with pleasure. Because some women will get off on it right off the bat. They'll really love it. They'll get straight into it. Other women, it won't really. It's like neither here nor there. And that's where you want to start associating, like the example I gave before with the butt plug, is you want to associate pleasurable feelings with anal stimulation. And this gets her to sort of buy in. It gets her to enjoy that experience more. And the other thing that tends to happen is a lot of girls have had their first anal experience, or their first introduction to anal has been with a guy who's inexperienced or who is in a rush. And he's just basically tried to slam it in there 100 miles an hour, no lube, full tilt. And what this has done is it's given her a very, very bad experience. And so her first ever time experimenting with anal sex, she's like, oh, that sucked, that really hurt. The guy didn't know what he was doing. And so she goes through the rest of her life thinking, I don't like anal. However, if a guy comes along who knows what the fuck he's actually doing and is able to slowly, surely associate anal sex with positive, pleasurable feelings, lo and behold, she starts to enjoy it. And she starts to enjoy it with him, very specifically, aka you, very specifically. So there you go. Where do we get to up here? Floor has also recommended lambskin condoms. They can be a bit harder to find for those guys who might be interested in that. And they do tend to, apparently they feel a lot more natural. I've never really had that much experience with them. I think I've tried them once. Yeah, exactly. I wonder how many people lie about having a latex allergy. Yeah, hopefully you guys aren't going around lying about having a latex allergy. Because that's how you end up with either STDs or a child that you didn't want. So, there we go. He's referring to all three Abrahamic religions here. What we'll get up to. Yes, Zero. I've gone. I went over my a chapter in my book, and went over one example of one example of a very common mental cause of performance anxiety. So, rewind it and check that one out. So, good question here from King Leonidas. Does watching porn create performance anxiety? What? Okay, it can be a symptom. I mean, it's an indirect cause, not a direct cause. And what I mean by this is it can cause, watching too much porn, being addicted to porn, having a very, very habitual porn usage, can cause problems in the head when it comes to comparing porn sex to real life sex. And what I mean is, guys become accustomed to too much variation, too much stimulation, too much novelty when they overconsume porn. So that when it comes down to real life sex, it just doesn't measure up. The dopamine hits in their brain don't measure up. It's like, oh, this is just one woman. Whereas, so I thoroughly recommend guys to sort of, if this is ever a problem for you guys, one of the first things I would recommend is weaning off porn. Because, well, exactly what Chelsea just said, it to a degree it can cause unrealistic expectations. But more importantly, it can cause just the novelty to go down. If you think about this, like think about when you were, like a teenager, when you first hit puberty, like how randy you were, how easy it was for you to get a boner. You probably got a boner in the middle of class without even thinking about it. Like you're in a geography class and like a girl turns around and gives you a slight like half a second glance, and bang, you've got wood. That's the kind of like novelty I'm talking about. That's the kind of, like, that's how little stimulus your body should naturally need if you're a guy who's, you know, not getting laid regularly. But porn fucks with that. It really fucks with those dopamine receptors in your brain. It really fucks with that novelty response, and thus really fucks with your ability to achieve arousal. Which is, if you remember back to when I talked about the sort of three components that you need in your mind, it is being present in the moment, not having a flight or fight response kick in, so being relaxed, and then third, being aroused, being sexually aroused, right? And so by over-consuming porn, it makes that last step infinitely harder. So, there you go. Good man. Haven't watched porn in 4 years, says Ryan, and it makes things much easier. Exactly. Exactly, mate. There you go. So, there we go, guys. I'm going to... we've got no more questions sitting around here in the chat. I'm going to wrap it up there. That is, one more time, I'll share this book with you. This is The Ultimate Guide to Performance Anxiety, my brand new book. Go check it out. It is a thorough step-by-step guide to help you guys self-diagnose any performance anxiety issues you have in the bedroom, and then fix them. More importantly, fix them for good, so you don't have to worry about shit ever again. And Viking just chiming in here. Again, I can confirm my girl was anal, graped. Not very lovely, not a very nice experience, that's for damn sure. And I got my girl to be able to enjoy it before meeting Stirling. So yes, it can be done if she's into you and you know what you're doing. Exactly, my friend. Bingo. But there we have it, guys. As always, smash that like button. I will see you again shortly. And if you missed out on the pre-sale, then you missed out on the pre-sale. That's basically it. But if you want to make sure you don't miss out on any of my future products on the pre-sale, get on my email list, sign up down below, get my free ebook, The 5 Subtle Mistakes Men Make in the Bedroom. Check out this performance anxiety guide. The link is down below. The link is also in the chat right here. And stick around for Monday. Monday, I have another announcement to make. I have a brand new book coming out, and you'll find out all about that on Monday. So make sure you check that out. And that's it from me, guys. You enjoy the rest of your day.